Music has the power to shatter boundaries, reshape cultures, and redefine entire generations. Throughout history, certain songs have emerged that didn't just climb the charts, they fundamentally altered the course of musical evolution itself. These aren't just hit songs, they're cultural earthquakes that changed everything that came after them. Which song do you think transformed music the most? Let's find out as we explore the tracks that made history. Boston, More Than a Feeling, 1976. Arena rock found its perfect blueprint when Tom Scholz spent years crafting this masterpiece in his basement studio. Using homemade equipment and revolutionary recording techniques, Scholz layered guitar harmonies in ways that had never been attempted before. The perfectionist MIT graduate built his own amplifiers and effects pedals, creating a sound so polished that many assumed it was impossible to recreate live. Brad Delp's stratospheric vocals soared over multiple guitar tracks, each recorded separately to achieve impossible harmonies. What made this track revolutionary wasn't just its sound, it was how it was made. Scholz proved that bedroom producers could compete with major studios, essentially inventing the concept of the home studio revolution. The album took 6 years to complete, with Scholz playing almost every instrument himself. The track's success launched 1,000 imitators and established the blueprint for guitar-driven arena anthems that still dominates rock radio today. Before we jump into the next track, could you do me a favor? Hit that subscribe button. It really makes a difference for small creators and helps me bring you more music. The Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand, 1963.
I want to hold your hand.
Beatlemania exploded across America the moment this innocent love song hit the airwaves in January 1964. Written by Lennon and McCartney in the basement of Jane Asher's house, the track featured a deceptively simple melody that masked sophisticated harmonic structures. The duo wrote the song face-to-face at the piano, with Paul playing the lower end and John the higher, creating their signature collaborative magic. The song's breakthrough came from its perfect balance of accessibility and innovation. Young enough for teenagers, sophisticated enough for adults. Producer George Martin's arrangement added subtle touches that elevated the track beyond typical pop fare. When the Beatles performed it on The Ed Sullivan Show, 73 million Americans watched, fundamentally changing the landscape of popular music. The performance reportedly reduced teenage crime rates that night because everyone was home watching. The track proved that British bands could conquer America, opening the floodgates for the British invasion that would reshape rock and roll forever. The Ronettes, Be My Baby, 1963. Phil Spector's Wall of Sound reached its ultimate expression in this thunderous declaration of teenage desire. Producer Spector used 21 musicians to create a sonic cathedral around Ronnie Spector's seductive vocals, layering instruments until the music became an emotional tidal wave. The revolutionary drum sound came from placing Hal Blaine's kit in the studio's echo chamber, creating a boom that seemed to come from inside a canyon. Spector's perfectionism led to dozens of takes, with musicians playing the same parts repeatedly until they achieved his vision of controlled chaos. Ronnie Spector's performance, with its perfect blend of innocence and sexuality, established a new template for female vocalists. The song's massive production and cinematic scope proved that pop music could be as grand and dramatic as any symphony. The track's influence spans from the Beatles to Bruce Springsteen, who called it the greatest pop record ever made. Spector's production techniques influenced decades of producers who sought to recreate his magical formula. Bob Dylan, Like a Rolling Stone, 1965.
Once upon a time,
Folk music died, and rock was reborn when Dylan plugged in his electric guitar and unleashed this 6-minute epic that radio stations initially refused to play. The track's stream of consciousness lyrics and aggressive electric sound marked Dylan's complete break from acoustic folk traditions, alienating some fans while attracting millions of new listeners. Al Kooper snuck into the recording session and sat down at the organ without being invited, creating the swirling sound that became the song's signature. Dylan's original acoustic version was completely transformed when producer Tom Wilson suggested adding a rock band. The song's success, at over 6 minutes long, challenged conventional wisdom about radio programming and proved that audiences craved more substantial musical experiences. Dylan's sneering vocals and attitude of barely contained contempt established him as rock's first authentic anti-hero. The track influenced everyone from the Rolling Stones to punk rock, proving that folk music could be just as rebellious as rock and roll. Simon and Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence, 1965 re-release.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
A failed folk song became a generation-defining anthem when producer Tom Wilson secretly added electric instruments to the original acoustic recording. Paul Simon had written the song after the Kennedy assassination, channeling the nation's grief into a meditation on communication breakdown and social isolation. The original 1964 version flopped completely, but Wilson's unauthorized remix created a haunting electric arrangement that perfectly captured mid-60s anxiety. Simon and Garfunkel had already broken up when the song became a hit, forcing them to reunite and capitalize on their unexpected success. The track's success launched Simon and Garfunkel's career and proved that folk music could embrace electric instruments without losing its essential message. The song's themes of alienation and disconnection resonated with a generation coming of age during the turbulent 1960s. Wilson's decision to electrify the song without the duo's permission established the template for remixing and demonstrated how production could completely transform a composition's impact. The Who, My Generation, 1965. Youth Rebellion found its perfect anthem when The Who channeled teenage frustration into this explosive declaration of generational warfare. Roger Daltrey's aggressive vocals and the band's deliberately sloppy performance style rejected everything that popular music had become by 1965. The track's famous line about hoping to die before getting old became a rallying cry for teenagers who felt misunderstood by adult society. John Entwistle's bass solo, one of the first in rock history, proved that rhythm sections could be as exciting as lead guitars. Keith Moon's explosive drumming and Pete Townshend's power chords created a sound that was angrier and more aggressive than anything on mainstream radio. Daltley's vocal stutter wasn't planned. It happened naturally during recording, and they kept it because it perfectly captured teenage nervousness and rebellion. The song's raw energy and uncompromising attitude influenced the entire punk movement, showing that technical proficiency was less important than passion and authenticity. The Beach Boys, Good Vibrations, 1966.
Softly smile.
Brian Wilson's concept of a pocket symphony reached its ultimate expression in this groundbreaking recording that took 6 months and multiple studios to complete. The song's modular construction, with distinct musical sections connected by innovative transitions, challenged every convention of popular song structure. Wilson worked with arranger Van Dyke Parks to create something that sounded more like a classical composition than a pop song. The track featured unprecedented use of unconventional instruments like the electro-theremin, creating sounds that had never been heard in popular music. Wilson's complex harmonies pushed vocal music to new levels of sophistication, with each voice contributing to an intricate tapestry of sound. The recording process involved 90 hours of studio time and 17 different sessions across 4 different studios. The track's production costs of $50,000 were unprecedented for a single song, but the results justified every penny by creating something that sounded like nothing else. The recording techniques Wilson pioneered influenced everyone from the Beatles to contemporary electronic musicians. The Beatles, A Day in the Life, 1967. Psychedelic era's experimental spirit. John Lennon's surreal observations about news and daily life were seamlessly connected to Paul McCartney's middle section about catching a bus and going upstairs to smoke. The track's famous orchestral crescendo, achieved by having 40 musicians improvise, popular music could be genuinely dangerous to establishment values. The Doors, Light My Fire, 1967. The Doors created the perfect fusion of rock, jazz, and poetry when Robbie Krieger's flamenco-influenced guitar work met Jim Morrison's mystical vocals in this 7-minute odyssey. The song began as a simple composition by Krieger, who was the youngest member of the band, but Morrison's lyrics transformed it into something far more ambitious. Ray Manzarek's distinctive organ sound, created by playing both bass lines and melodies simultaneously, gave the Doors their unique sonic signature. Morrison's controversial lyrics and unpredictable stage presence established him as rock's first genuinely dangerous frontman, influencing generations of performers who sought to capture his magnetic charisma. The track's extended instrumental sections proved that rock audiences would accept jazz-influenced improvisation, opening the door for progressive rock and fusion genres. John Densmore's jazz-trained drumming provided subtle complexity that most rock drummers couldn't match. Despite radio stations initially balking at its length, The song's massive success proved that artistic ambition could coexist with commercial appeal. The band's refusal to change the controversial line about getting much higher for The Ed Sullivan Show demonstrated their commitment to artistic integrity over commercial considerations. Jimi Hendrix, All Along the Watchtower, 1968. Jimi Hendrix took Bob Dylan's acoustic folk song and transformed it into an electric blues masterpiece that even Dylan himself preferred to his original version. Hendrix's revolutionary guitar work, featuring innovative use of feedback, distortion, and wah-wah effects, created textures that had never been heard before in popular music. The track's backwards guitar solo, achieved through innovative studio techniques, influenced countless guitarists who tried to replicate Hendrix's otherworldly sounds. Dave Mason contributed acoustic guitar to the sessions, providing the foundation for Hendrix's sonic experiments. Noel Redding's bass work and Mitch Mitchell's jazz-influenced drumming created a rhythm section that was both powerful and sophisticated. The song proved that cover versions could completely reimagine original compositions, establishing the template for creative reinterpretation that continues to influence musicians today. Hendrix's approach to the electric guitar as a complete sound system, rather than just an instrument, revolutionized rock music and influenced every guitarist who followed. The track's enduring popularity proves that innovative interpretation can become more influential than the original composition. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Fortunate Son, 1969. CCR channeled the anger and frustration of working-class America into this blistering protest anthem that became the unofficial soundtrack to the Vietnam War era. John Fogerty's searing vocals and razor-sharp guitar work cut through the political rhetoric of the late 1960s with unprecedented directness and power. The song was written in just 20 minutes, with Fogerty channeling his anger about class privilege and military deferments into one of the most effective protest songs ever recorded. The track's simple three-chord structure proved that effective protest music didn't need complex arrangements to deliver devastating social commentary. Fogerty's lyrics attacked class privilege with a specificity that made other protest songs seem abstract by comparison. The rhythm section of Stu Cook and Doug Clifford provided the perfect foundation for Fogerty's assault on American inequality. The song's enduring popularity during times of social unrest proves that great protest music transcends its original historical context, speaking to universal themes of inequality and injustice. Despite being banned by many radio stations for its anti-war message, the track's popularity with soldiers in Vietnam created an ironic situation where the military's own soundtrack criticized the war they were fighting. The Rolling Stones, Gimme Shelter, 1969. The Rolling Stones captured the violence and uncertainty of the late 1960s in this apocalyptic masterpiece that perfectly soundtracked America's cultural breakdown. Keith Richards' ominous guitar riff, inspired by acoustic slide techniques, created an atmosphere of impending doom that matched the era's social tensions. The song was recorded during sessions for Let It Bleed at Olympic Studios in London, where the band was experimenting with darker, more atmospheric sounds. Mary Clayton's guest vocals, recorded in the middle of the night while she was pregnant, added a gospel intensity that elevated the song from rock anthem to spiritual warning. Producer Jimmy Miller's work on the song established new standards for creating atmosphere and tension in rock recordings. The track's innovative use of percussion and atmospheric sound effects created a sonic landscape that influenced everything from heavy metal to alternative rock. Charlie Watts' drumming provided a steady heartbeat against the chaos, while Bill Wyman's bass work anchored the song's threatening atmosphere. The song's themes of social violence and urban decay proved prophetic, as the decade ended with the tragedy at Altamont Speedway, where the Stones were performing when violence erupted. Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, 1971.
And when she gets there.
Led Zeppelin created the ultimate album-oriented rock epic with this 8-minute journey that perfectly captured the ambitions and contradictions of 1970s rock music. Jimmy Page's guitar work, building from delicate acoustic fingerpicking to one of the most celebrated solos in rock history, established a new template for dynamic song construction. The song began with Page playing a 12-string acoustic guitar in a tuning he rarely used, creating the mysterious opening that draws listeners into the song's epic journey. Robert Plant's mystical lyrics and powerful vocals created an atmosphere of epic grandeur that influenced countless hard rock and heavy metal bands. John Paul Jones's multi-instrumental contributions, including keyboards and bass, provided sophisticated arrangements that elevated the song above typical heavy rock. John Bonham's thunderous drumming, which doesn't enter until halfway through the song, created one of rock's most dramatic entrances. The song's refusal to be released as a single, despite massive radio play, helped establish the importance of album-oriented rock and proved that artistic integrity could coexist with commercial success. The track remains the most requested song in classic rock radio history, proving that audiences appreciate musical ambition and complexity when it's presented with sufficient passion and skill. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, 1975.
Life it just
Freddie Mercury created the most ambitious and successful experiment in popular music history with this 6-minute opera that defied every convention of commercial songwriting. The song's 3 distinct sections, ballad, opera, and hard rock, were seamlessly woven together into a narrative that was both deeply personal and universally appealing. Mercury wrote the song on piano at his home, but the final recording required over 180 vocal overdubs and innovative use of 24-track recording technology. The opera section featured Mercury, Brian May, and Roger Taylor, singing multiple parts, creating a choir effect that had never been attempted in rock music. Brian May's guitar work provided both delicate accompaniment and crushing heavy rock power, while John Deacon's bass work anchored the song's dramatic shifts. The recording process pushed the limits of available technology, with so many overdubs that the tape became transparent in places. The song's massive success proved that audiences were hungry for innovation and willing to embrace musical complexity when it was presented with sufficient passion and conviction. The accompanying music video, one of the first to use special effects extensively, helped establish MTV's visual vocabulary and proved that rock bands could be theatrical without sacrificing their musical credibility. Mercury's theatrical vocals and the band's willingness to embrace complete musical absurdity created something that shouldn't have worked, but somehow became one of rock's greatest achievements. Rocket 88 by Jackie Brenston and his Delta Cats, 1951. Many music historians point to this electrifying track as the very first rock and roll record ever made. Recorded at Sun Records in Memphis, Rocket 88 emerged from a happy accident when Ike Turner's amplifier fell off his car, creating a distinctive fuzzy distortion that producer Sam Phillips decided to keep. The song's driving rhythm, distorted guitar, and rebellious energy established the blueprint that would eventually explode into the rock and roll revolution of the 1950s. Jackie Brenston's saxophone-driven arrangement combined with Turner's innovative guitar work created a sound that bridged the gap between rhythm and blues, and what would become rock music. The track's influence on future rock pioneers like Chuck Berry and Little Richard cannot be overstated, as it proved that raw energy and technological accidents could create something entirely new in popular music. The Twist by Chubby Checker, 1960. Dance crazes had existed before, but none created the cultural phenomenon that The Twist unleashed across America and beyond. Originally recorded by Hank Ballard, Chubby Checker's version became the definitive recording that sparked a dance revolution. The song's genius lay in its simplicity. Anyone could do the twist, regardless of age or dancing ability. It became the first song in Billboard history to reach #1 twice, in both 1960 and 1962. The twist craze broke down social barriers in ways that seemed impossible during the segregated early 1960s, bringing together people of all races and ages on dance floors across the nation. The song's impact extended far beyond music, influencing fashion, television programming, and social behavior. Its success proved that popular music could create cultural movements that transcended traditional boundaries and unite people through shared physical expression. Waterloo Sunset by the Kinks, 1967.
We're so busy.
Ray Davies crafted this pastoral masterpiece during the height of psychedelic experimentation. Yet, Waterloo Sunset achieved something more profound than any acid-drenched musical adventure. The song introduced a new level of poetic sophistication to rock music, painting vivid scenes of London life with unprecedented literary depth. Davies wrote the track while recovering from a nervous breakdown, channeling his observations of city life into what many consider the most beautiful song about urban existence ever recorded. The gentle melody, combined with Davies' impressionistic lyrics about two lovers meeting by the Thames, demonstrated that rock music could be contemplative, introspective, and deeply moving without sacrificing any of its essential power. The song influenced countless singer-songwriters who realized that popular music could serve as a vehicle for genuine poetry and emotional complexity. Wild Thing by the Troggs, 1966.
Wild thing.
Sometimes the most revolutionary music comes from the simplest ideas executed with raw passion. Wild Thing reduced rock and roll to its most primitive elements. 3 chords, a basic drum pattern, and vocalist Reg Presley's almost Neanderthal-like delivery. Yet this apparent simplicity concealed a sophisticated understanding of what made rock music so powerful in the first place. The song's deliberately crude production and unpolished performance style would later inspire the punk movement of the 1970s, proving that technical proficiency was less important than attitude and energy. Recorded in just one take, Wild Thing captured lightning in a bottle and showed that authenticity could triumph over studio polish. The track's influence can be heard in everything from the Ramones to the White Stripes, establishing a template for raw, uncompromising rock that prioritized feeling over finesse. I Can See for Miles by The Who, 1967.
I know you deceive me.
Pete Townshend spent months crafting what he intended to be The Who's ultimate sonic assault, and I Can See for Miles delivered exactly that revolutionary sound. The song represented the first time a rock band fully exploited the possibilities of multi-track recording to create something that couldn't be replicated in live performance. Townshend layered multiple guitar parts, creating a wall of sound that was both melodically sophisticated and brutally powerful. The track's innovative use of backwards tape effects and studio manipulation pointed toward the future of rock production while maintaining the raw energy that made The Who legendary. Despite Townshend's disappointment with its chart performance, the song established new standards for rock production and influenced countless bands to view the recording studio as an instrument in itself, rather than simply a place to document live performances. California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas, 1965. Folk music underwent a complete transformation when the Mamas and the Papas crafted this wistful anthem about longing and displacement. The song's sophisticated vocal harmonies, inspired by both folk traditions and pop sensibilities, created a new template for what popular music could achieve in terms of emotional complexity. John Phillips wrote the track during a particularly cold winter in New York, channeling his homesickness for California into lyrics that captured a universal feeling of longing for something better. The recording featured some of the most intricate vocal arrangements ever attempted in popular music, with each voice contributing to a tapestry of sound that was both intimate and grand. The song's success proved that folk music could embrace pop production values without losing its essential authenticity, paving the way for the folk rock explosion that would dominate the late 1960s. When Doves Cry by Prince, 1984. Prince revolutionized pop music by removing what most producers considered an essential element, the bass line, and creating one of the most distinctive hits of the 1980s. Recorded entirely by Prince himself at his Paisley Park studio, When Doves Cry showcased his ability to merge rock, pop, R&B, and funk into something entirely original. The song's unusual structure, with its lengthy instrumental introduction and unconventional arrangement, challenged radio programmers and proved that audiences were hungry for innovation. Prince's falsetto vocals, combined with his blistering guitar work and innovative use of drum machines, created a sound that was both futuristic and deeply rooted in musical tradition. The track's massive success demonstrated that artists could maintain complete creative control while achieving mainstream success, inspiring countless musicians to trust their artistic instincts rather than following commercial formulas. Anarchy in the UK by Sex Pistols, 1976. Punk rock announced its arrival with the force of a cultural bomb when the Sex Pistols unleashed this ferocious manifesto. Johnny Rotten's sneering vocals and the band's deliberately amateurish playing style rejected everything that rock music had become by the mid-1970s. The song's 2-minute duration and 3-chord structure proved that complexity wasn't necessary to create music that could change the world. Manager Malcolm McLaren's promotion of the band as anti-establishment figures helped create a movement that extended far beyond music into fashion, politics, and social attitudes. The track's raw energy and uncompromising attitude influenced thousands of bands worldwide, showing that anyone with passion and 3 chords could make music that mattered. Punk's DIY ethos, first crystallized in this song, continues to inspire independent musicians decades after its initial release. Born to be Wild by Steppenwolf, 1968. The very term heavy metal entered the musical vocabulary through this thunderous anthem of rebellion and freedom. John Kay's gravelly vocals and the band's crushing guitar sound created the template for an entirely new genre of music. The song became the unofficial soundtrack to the counterculture movement, particularly after its prominent use in the film Easy Rider. Steppenwolf's Germanic-influenced hard rock sound was heavier and more aggressive than anything that had achieved mainstream success before, proving that audiences were ready for music that matched the social turbulence of the late 1960s. The track's celebration of motorcycle culture and rebellious individualism tapped into something primal in American culture, creating an enduring symbol of freedom and nonconformity. Every heavy metal band that followed owes a debt to the sonic foundation that Steppenwolf established with this groundbreaking recording. The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, 1982.
No, they just don't care. I can't.
Hip-hop transformed from party music to social commentary with this groundbreaking track that introduced rap to serious political discourse. While early rap focused primarily on celebration and entertainment, The Message proved that the genre could address social issues with the same power and sophistication as any protest song in popular music history. Mel Mel's vivid descriptions of urban decay and social injustice were set against a hypnotic electronic backdrop that perfectly captured the harsh realities of inner-city life. The song's success on both black and mainstream radio demonstrated hip-hop's crossover potential while maintaining its street credibility. The track established rap as a legitimate form of social commentary, inspiring countless artists to use their platform to address political and social issues. Without The Message, hip-hop might have remained a regional party music, rather than becoming the dominant global cultural force it is today.